but I know he was seen prior to me stopping him. Are you sure somebody told you that he had been seen before that day you went out there? Like on the 29th or the 28th or any days prior to that date? No, I am not sure because I don't have the facts of all of this investigation. Well then, I am not sure. Nobody told you that they had seen him before, right? I believe on that particular day, I was told that he was seen earlier that day. All right, starting point, anyone? Okay. Start with question. Did Sturwalt, no, I think I said did he. It was either did he or did Sturwalt convey any facts to you as to why this man, one more time, question, did he convey any facts to you as to why this man, 5-minute cut? Anybody?
Yes.
5-minute question. And you wouldn't tell him 10-minute? Question. You are not even sure what was said? $180 for 5 minutes. Starts with question by defense. Ready? They didn't know who he was, did they? Except that he was coming out and he had something to do with the residents? I'm not sure. Okay. But when was Mr. Garcia advised of his rights, the Miranda rights? I'm not sure. Did you do it? I did not. Did you make the statement, you are in custody, or you are under arrest, or was that by one of the other officers? It wasn't by me. All I told him was we had a search warrant for his residence, and I was concerned, and that's all you told him. Did anybody else, did you hear anybody else tell him anything? No. Were you the only one that talked to him? No. Who else talked to him? The other officers that were there. Well, did you overhear the conversation? What conversation? Well, usually when you are talking, you've got a conversation. You said the other officers were talking to him. That was at various times. Okay, what was said? What did you overhear? There was small talk. He was concerned about why we were stopping him, concerned about his eyes. He wanted to know what was going on, didn't he? Yes. A substantial period of time passed before he was informed of why he was stopped. Isn't that true? No, I just told him immediately. Did you hear anybody advise him of his rights prior to your leaving him? No. When did you leave the presence of Mr. Garcia? I left him immediately after I stopped him. I came back, I talked to him, I left him again. I was walking back and forth quite a few times while we were out there on the street. It was hot and standing there in the sun, you were just walking around. Did you go find a shady spot or something? No. No. Did you go get cold drinks? I did eventually. Yes. Mr. Garcia wanted to go get a drink, right? No. I says, I am going to go get a cold drink. Would you like one? And he said yes. And you never heard any police officer indicate to Mr. Garcia that he had a right not to answer questions, things of that nature, you know, the Miranda advisement? I did not, no. Now, were you part of the transporting team that took him to jail? I'm not sure if I took him or not. He wasn't handcuffed until he was getting out of the car up in Los Angeles, isn't that true? Do you recall that? I'm not sure how he was transported down. I may have transported him. I don't recall. Do you recall having any discussion with any of the other officers, either the ones that were there or with somebody on the radio about whether or not Mr. Garcia was going to be taken in? And this was after you had searched the house, you know, the warrant came down. Hardin communicated that he had a warrant and then you searched. After that, did you have any discussion with any of your other officers as to whether or not Mr. Garcia was going to be arrested or should be taken in? I don't recall. It may have happened, I don't know. You didn't find any narcotics in his house, did you? No. You didn't find any money of any consequence, right? Nothing that looked like it was related to narcotics, that's correct. Didn't find any records that looked like they could have been related to narcotics, is that true? I don't recall about the records, there may have been. Now, there may have been something indicating narcotic activity, don't recall, I don't recall. And could I have that number 1? I think at this point we will take our recess for the afternoon, so before we take a recess, I inquire if counsel is finished, because the witness has got a long way to drive after this, hours. Okay, Mr. Cooper, are you almost finished? I am sure he is not finished because I interrupted him. I am willing to stipulate there are no pay and owe sheets or anything like that found in. I thought maybe by having him look at this return, I will stipulate that it wasn't found. Now, we could take a couple more minutes if you want to at this time. I want to talk a little while. Okay. Why don't we take a recess then? May I have permission to handle other matters from Mr. Garcia? Yes, my client waives his right to a continuous prelim. Okay, let me give you an estimate of when we will resume. I am sorry we have to do this to the witness. If there is anyone still here, we are going to be in recess. Maybe you can tell the defense that we are going to be in recess for about 20-25 minutes. All right, we are ready to resume. I believe we were still on cross-examination. Thank you, Your Honor. When Mr. Garcia was first stopped, there were 3 cars right around there. Isn't that true? Do you recall that? At least 3 cars, yes. State your full name, sir. Edwin D. Normandy. Spell your first and last name, please. Edwin Normandy. Mr. Normandy, when did the children visit or come to North Carolina? It was just before Christmas, 1989. Would that be December of 89? Yes, sir. And at that time, who were the children staying with? They were staying at my sister's house, and I was living there at the time. You were living with your sister at the time? Yes, sir. Where is your sister's home located? 46 Mulberry Street, North Carolina. You did at that time place the children in school, is that correct? Yes, sir. In the Greater Raleigh School District? Yes, sir. And since that time you have helped them as far as their schoolwork is concerned, is that correct? Objection, Your Honor, that's leading the witness. Objection sustained. All right. And did you help them in regard to their educational activities and goals? Yes, I help them all I can. Now, do you feel that the home that you were living in at that time had adequate surroundings as far as furnishings and material comforts? Yes. Objection, Your Honor, that's calling not only for a conclusion, but it is leading the witness. Objection sustained. Please describe the house that you were living in at that time. It's a comfortable house, nothing elaborate, but cozy. How many bedrooms? There were 3 bedrooms, a living room, and a kitchen. There was a front porch and a fenced-in backyard and a 2-car garage. Did the children participate in any activities at this time? The oldest boy, Jimmy, wanted to play football. At that time, we couldn't get him in, so I got him on the basketball team, and he played basketball. So he participated in some form of athletic activity? Yes, sir. Are you married at the present time? At the present time now? Yes. Yes, sir. What is the name of your spouse? Pamela Ellis Normandy. You did reside with Pamela prior to the marriage, is that correct? Yes, sir. And during this time, you had all 3 children with you and her, is that correct? Yes, sir. Were you living in your sister's home then, after the sister moved, Your Honor? This is after your sister moved? Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. When did she move? September 14 of last year. Does Pamela work? Yes, part-time as a teacher's aide. Do you think that she provides a good home for your children? Yes. At this time, we'll take our afternoon recess. You may step down. Thank you. You may continue. Mr. Normandy, if you are given custody of the children, what scheme or what plan do you have in mind as far as the care and custody and control of the children to raise them in my home with my present wife? In other words, would you provide for their care, medical, physical, and mental? Yes, sir. I have since they have been living with me. You stated that they have been here since December of 1989? Yes, sir. At that time, were you still paying child support to the previous Mrs. Normandy? Yes, sir. And when did you stop payment of child support for the 3 children? She got the last check the 1st of April of 1990, I think it was. During the time between December to April, did she at any time demand that the children be returned to her? No, sir. When you stopped payment on the check, what happened then? She said this is what she figured I would do, and she wanted the children back. No further questions, Your Honor. Mr. Normandy, you stated in your declaration that you would comply with the order as it was rendered in South Carolina. Is that correct? I have. Have I done that? And you have obeyed the order of the court, sir? Yes, ma'am, I have. Is it true that that order stipulated that you were to pay $500 a month in child support? That is correct, ma'am. And have you paid $500 a month in child support? I have, ma'am. Have you any receipts to show that you have done so? I have receipts, but for approximately 6 or 7 months. Do you have those with you today? Yes, ma'am. Mr. Normandy, you were ordered by the court to pay all the back bills, many of the back bills that had been a part of the community debt in South Carolina. Did you do so? I paid all the bills. The house and everything was caught up by November. November of what year? 1989. State your full name, sir. Edwin D. Normandy. Spell your first and last name, please. EDWINNORMANDY. Mr. Normandy, when did the children visitor come to North Carolina? It was just before Christmas 1989. Would that be December of 89? Yes, sir. And at that time, were the children staying with you? They were staying at my sister's house, and I was living there at the time. You were living with your sister at the time? Yes, sir. Where is your sister's home located? 46 Mulberry Street, North Carolina. You did at that time place the children in school, is that correct? Yes, sir. In the Greater Raleigh School District? Yes, sir. And since that time, you have helped them as far as their schoolwork is concerned, is that correct? Objection, Your Honor, that's leading the witness. Objection sustained. All right. Did you help them in regard to their educational activities and goals? Yes, I helped them all I can. Now, do you feel that the home that you were living in at that time had adequate surroundings as far as furnishings and material comforts? Yes. Objection, Your Honor, that's calling not only for a conclusion, but it is leading the witness. Objection sustained. Please describe the house that you were living in at that time. It's a comfortable house, nothing elaborate but cozy. How many bedrooms? There were 3 bedrooms, a living room and a kitchen. There was a front porch and a fenced-in backyard and a 2-car garage. Did the children participate in any activities at this time? The oldest boy, Jimmy, wanted to play football. At that time, we couldn't get him in, so I got him on the basketball team, and he played basketball. So he did participate in some form of athletic activity? Yes, sir. Are you married at the present time? At the present time now? Yes, yes, sir. What is the name of your spouse? Pamela Ellis Normandy. You did reside with Pamela prior to the marriage, is that correct? Yes, sir. And during this time, you had all 3 children with you and her, is that correct? Yes, sir. Were you living in your sister's home then? After the sister moved, Your Honor. This is after your sister moved? Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. When did she move? September 14 of last year. Does Pamela work? Yes, part-time as a teacher's aide. Do you think that she provides a good home for your children? Yes. At this time, we'll take our afternoon recess. You may step down. Thank you. You may continue. Mr. Normandy, if you are given custody of the children, what scheme or what plan do you have in mind as far as the care and custody and control of the children to raise them in my home with my present wife? In other words, would you provide for their care, medical, physical, and mental? Yes, sir. I have since they have been living with me. You stated that they have been here since December of 1989? Yes, sir. At that time, were you still paying child support to the previous Mrs. Normandy? Yes, sir. And when did you stop payment of child support for the 3 children? She got the last check the 1st of April of 1990, I think it was. And during the time between December to April, did she at any time demand that the children be returned to her? No, sir. And when you stopped payment on the check, what happened then? And she said this is what she figured I would do, and she wanted the children back. No further questions, Your Honor. Mr. Normandy, you stated in your declaration that you would comply with the order as it was rendered in South Carolina. Is that correct? I have. Have I done that? And you have obeyed the order of the court, sir? Yes, ma'am, I have. Is it true that that order stipulated that you were to pay $500 a month in child support? That is correct, ma'am. And have you paid $500 a month in child support? I have, ma'am. Have you any receipts to show that you have done so? I have receipts, but for approximately 6 or 7 months. Do you have those with you today? Yes, ma'am. Mr. Normandy, you were ordered by the court to pay all the back bills, many of the back bills that have been a part of the community debt in South Carolina. Did you do so? I paid all the bills. The house and everything was caught up by November. November of what year? 1989. 204 voice for 15 minutes. Question by defense attorney. So did you have your drinks when you went in the house? Yes. What were you drinking? Cans, bottles, or what? I had a Pepsi in a bottle. So were these containers left at the house then? I don't know. Have you looked at any of the returns filed, in this case, of the things that were taken from the various residences? I looked at the property report just a few minutes ago. During the recess? Yes. And did you look to see if there was any kind of narcotics paraphernalia taken from Mr. Garcia's residence? I looked to see what was taken from there, as I recall. Now, did you look at what was seized at the other residences? I did not. Like there is 9 or 10 passports taken from the other residents and the other people involved. I didn't look at the other locations. Did you find any phony IDs or any phony paperwork at Mr. Garcia's house? I did not. Did any of the other agents or officers indicate to you they found some suspicious paperwork? They didn't. No. Did you find anything suspicious at all in his car? Yes. What was that? Well, I don't know what you mean by suspicious. Anything that would lead you to believe that the person in possession of that property was using it in a narcotics operation, like something you might weigh narcotics with, some tape that they might tape up the packages, or anything that caused you to be suspicious about anything you saw there. No. Wasn't Jimmy Sturwalt the first one to pick up the scanner? No. Are you sure about that? You have a clear recollection? Yes. You picked it up? Yes. You turned it on and it went right on this police channel that is used by your department, narcotics frequency? No, it didn't go right onto that frequency at all. There was no response. Didn't the DEA agent pick that thing up and take the cover off of it and punch some buttons? No. How can you find out who those officers were that were with you there? How can I find out? Yeah. I mean, you don't have their names, right? I don't recall their names at this point, no. Are they listed someplace? Would somebody know who they are? You would have to ask the case agent in charge. Well, the case agent has already indicated he wasn't sure who they were. I am not sure who they were. What about the sergeant in charge of, didn't the sergeant send you out? I communicated with my supervisor and he indicated for me to go out there, yes. And who is your supervisor? Murphy. Is he a sergeant? Yes. Do you ordinarily work in a unit that the sergeant is kind of in charge of this unit of 5, 6 detectives? Yes. Okay. And so you went out there and you were working with people from other units. Sturwalt is from another unit, isn't he? No, Sturwalt is in my unit. And you know he was there, right? Yes. And you don't know who the other guys were? No, I don't. Do you know whether or not Sturwalt made any report on this case, any notes, written notes, or filed any kind of a report? I don't know. Okay, this car was searched while he was still in the detention stage, is that correct? Or was he already under arrest at that point? He was already under arrest. Already under arrest? Yes. And then he gave you permission to search his car? Yes. And did you tell him he was under arrest? Yes. Did you handcuff him? No. Well, what did you say? Mr. Garcia, you are arrested for what? A violation of state narcotics laws. Okay. And didn't you tell him that he was arrested for like one section as opposed to another? No, I did not. At the time you told him he was under arrest, you did not know of any observed activity on his part which was illegal. Isn't that true? That's not true. Okay. What facts did you know of? What facts had been related to you? The facts at that point were that I know that there had been a large sum of money seized as a result of this investigation involving the residency on Canary, that a package had been seen coming from that location. You didn't know that before the recess, did you? No, I did not. You went out and talked to Detective Hardin, and he told you that? Isn't that true? No, I looked at the affidavit and refreshed my memory. And now, you remember? Yes, I do. Who told it to you? Who told it to me? Yeah. You couldn't remember anything before the recess. I have trouble remembering this case. I thought I was coming out on a different case this afternoon, on what I originally intended to come out on this afternoon. Okay, when you were told that, first of all, what were you told about the bag and who told you? That came from Murphy. What did he tell you? He had met with me before I rode out to the scene. Oh, Murphy met with you? Yes. Did he go out with you? No, he was out there when I went out there. I relieved him. Oh, so Murphy and Sturwalt were there. They were there when I got there. Murphy had left shortly after my arrival. And did you talk to him before he left? Yes. And had you had any contact with him at that point? Have I? Yeah. No. When did you first have some contact with him? The first time I had contact with him was when I stopped his vehicle. Well, you stopped his vehicle and you hadn't had contact with him yet, had you? Yes. Where did that take place? In a church parking lot in that area. It was just as soon as I arrived at that location. And then you and Murphy had a little conversation? Yes. Okay. Did Murphy know who was living in that Canary Street address? I am sorry, I take that back. This was Sturwalt, who I met in the parking lot. Murphy was out there, was he? I don't think Murphy was out there. I take that back. I beg your pardon? I take that back. I don't think he was out there. Okay. So, you have a conversation in the church lot with Sturwalt. What does he, are you getting instructions from him, or are you guys just shooting the breeze? No, we are not shooting the breeze. We are talking about an investigation. He is telling me what is going on. Okay. And where is Mr. Garcia while you are having that conversation? I don't know. You don't know. You have never seen him? Never seen him. Mr. Sturwalt tells you he has seen somebody at that residence? Yes. And he saw him put in a box in the rear of the Cadillac? That's correct. Which you later searched and found was nothing suspicious? Yes. All right. He sees this individual at that residence. Did he tell you that he has ever seen him at that residence before? He did not. And did he tell you that he had ever seen this individual before? He did not. Okay. Did somebody else tell you that they had seen this individual before? Detective Hardin. Okay. Where did he tell you he had seen this individual? No, Detective Hardin didn't tell me. I don't know if anybody had seen this individual before we saw him on that day. Detective Hardin had told me he had been to that location prior to that day. But he never told you he had seen this individual before, had he? No. Nobody told you that they had seen this individual who was there at that residence prior to that day. Isn't that true? To the best of my knowledge, yes. Okay. What else were you told about this residence? That prior to that day, our surveillance ended up at that location and a package was seen leaving that location. An individual was seen leaving the location with some kind of container? Yes. Okay. Do you recall what the container appeared to be? I don't recall. I think it was a trash bag, but I am not sure. Nobody said they saw any narcotics in that bag, did they? No. Nobody saw anybody doing anything illegal at that residence, did they? I am not sure. They saw somebody leaving with a bag of unknown stuff. Could have been clothes, it could have been trash, it could have been narcotics. It could have been narcotics, yes, and that is about it. And nobody even knew whether or not there was anyone in that residence at the time it was entered and left by this Julio Perez. Isn't that true? I believe so. Okay. Now, you and Sturwalt had this conversation and the defendant was seen at the location that morning. And did he tell you that he had observed him do anything illegal? He didn't say illegal, no. All he saw him put a box in the trunk? Yes. And he didn't say that it was packaged in such a way it appeared to be narcotics, did he? Yes, he did. Now, he told you that he thought the package contained narcotics? That's correct. What did he say was unique about it? That in his expert opinion, he felt it was a possibility that he put narcotics in the trunk of his car. Okay, there is a possibility? That's correct. But that is an assumption, right? That's correct. There were no other factors to indicate that there was narcotics in that box. Were there? That's correct. Did you know anything else about what Mr. Garcia was observed to have done when you arrested him? No. So he was a suspect in a narcotics investigation who came from a residence where another suspect was seen to go and remove a bag that could have been narcotics, right? Yes. And then, but we don't even know if this man was there that day, true? I don't know. Okay. Nobody knows if he was there. And then he is seen the next morning putting a box in his car. Do you have any other incriminating facts at hand when you said, Mr. Garcia, you are under arrest for narcotics violations? I don't recall any more than that. Now, you had an opportunity to brush up and go through some of these reports, right? I briefly went over the affidavit during the recess. You can't think of any other facts that you had at your disposal indicating that Mr. Garcia had committed a crime other than what you just told us about, the bag being removed. He is seen at the house later putting a box in his car. Other than the information that Jim Harden had indicated to me, that he believed that narcotics was being illegally operated out of the Canary location. Okay. Now, Mr. Harden told you he believed that, but he didn't give any more facts, right? No, I didn't ask for any more. You weren't given any more facts other than his belief? Yes. And that was the basis of your arrest of Mr. Garcia? The information from Detective Harden, the information I knew at that time, yes. But the information from the detective, it wasn't information, it was his opinion that was given to you. Isn't that correct? He said he had information. I don't have any further questions, Your Honor. All right, redirect. Detective Perino, let's set the setting properly. You don't work in Detective Harden's unit, that's correct. You didn't work on his surveillance? No, I did not. And then at some point in time, when search warrants are about to be obtained, there is a need for more help. Isn't that true? Extra help? Yes. And so you get called in to go to one of the houses pending the search warrant being issued. Is that accurate? Yes. That's how you get into the setting. You were given information to do something from somebody who had personal knowledge of facts, leading and suggestive. I object. It is leading, yes. How does it happen you get sent down? Yes, I get called to go to a certain location, and other officers who have personal knowledge, objection, leading and suggestive. Well, it is sort of hard to tell, but I agree it sounds like it was on the verge of being leading. Does somebody tell you some information? Somebody who has personal knowledge? Yes. Who is that? Detective Harden. Okay. Had you participated on any of the surveillance on any prior days? I did not. This is your only participation in the case? Yes. Extra help, so to speak, in executing the search warrant? Yes. Same thing with the DEA guys, some of them? Yes. Extra help? And you tell Mr. Garcia that you were somebody was getting a search warrant? That's right. As opposed to you already had a search warrant? That's correct.